We're going to record it too. Here we are. We are live.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Christine Furman Show. I am Christine Furman, your host, with an amazing guest, Genesis. How are you?
I'm good.
How
are you today, Christine?
I am so great. I had a couple days of not feeling well. I'm so grateful to be back on my feet today. I still have that little groggy voice, but you know what? We are here and I'm so excited to be here with you. So how are you?
I am doing great. I got to tell you, it's been an awesome week. It's been one of those weeks where just feel like the flow, everything's coming together for me, and it's been a great start to the new year. I actually started the very initial part of my year with being sick. So I've finally come out of that. I know you have too. It's been going around. And so it just feels good to get back on track and get off to a fresh start and really start pumping out those goals. So excited to talk about that with you today.
Yes, that is so exciting. And that is exactly how I felt on Monday. And I got all the planners. I've got the vision board here. We've got the room rearranged. Like, we were ready to rock it on Monday. The kids were crushing their homeschool, and I had all these plans and calls. And then I started not feeling well, on Monday afternoon. And I was like, oh. So it took 2.5 days of my week away. And it was like, you know what? I had to give myself that grace, though. I had to say, you know what? It's okay. I need to rest. So then that way I can get back on track, and
Absolutely.
isn't there that quote, when we make plans, God laughs, right? Isn't that,
Yeah.
and that's how I felt. Like, I had all the plans, I had everything ready, and God's like, you need to rest, my sweet child. So that's what I did.
And we have to listen to our bodies, when we are just absolutely exhausted and we feel like we can't do anything else. We need to take the time to rejuvenate. And when our cup is filled up, we can give more of ourselves, right? I mean, that's what I always fall back on, is the idea that if I can have my cup filled up in a way that I have the energy to be able to give more of myself, everything else is going to work out and be so much smoother. So keeping that in mind constantly.
Absolutely. That is so true. And you know what? I never even gave you a proper introduction. So I would like to first introduce you. And I know we introduced you in the comments, but I want to let all of our guests here watching that I am honored to have Genesis on the show with us. I met her actually through a couple ways. We have connected a couple different ways. Yes. And, you invited me to a talk that you were on, and we got connected that way. And then we ended up getting connected through the Thriving Women talk show, where I was a guest and you were a co-host. And now we both are co-hosts there, which is awesome to be co-hosts on the Thriving Women. And we have great things coming with that. But also, you are a wife, a mom to 4 beautiful children, which I love seeing them and all of the fun things that you guys do. An author to 3 books, right? One's a devotional, Unleash Your Potential. How do you need exposure and shine on? I definitely need to check out the devotional for sure.
I would love to send you a copy of that. And that is so near and dear to my heart. And it's one of those things that, even if you have 2 minutes, because we're all busy. So I was very, very thoughtful of that. So they're very, very short little devotionals, but very thought provoking. So, it's food for thought, straight from scripture and also from personal experience. So, it's really great if you're looking for a quick read, but something that inspires you to really take on your day. So
I love that. Yeah, definitely. We'll check that out. And we can put all of these links, any links that you have, we'll drop them in the comments so people can find you. And if they're interested, if you guys are interested in any of the books or anything that we talk about, let us know in the comments. So then that way we can get the information to you. But in addition to all of that, founder of Dream, Ignite, and Build Incorporate, life and career coach and national speaker, and also the founder of Crazy Mom TV, a YouTube series for busy moms managing it all And I know there are so many of us here that can relate to that. So I love watching your episodes. They are so, so inspiring and so, just real and relatable. So I thank you for that so much.
Thank you. Well, and again, this everything that I talk about is near and dear to my heart and stuff that I'm constantly going through. I'm constantly learning and growing myself as a mother as my kids grow older, and I've got, ages kind of across the spectrum now from 2 to 9, and we're starting to approach those double digits. So it's an exciting time in my life, but it's also a challenging time, for a mom with young children, as I know many mothers out there can relate. And it's also a time for so many of us to continue to pursue that calling, whether we have young children or we've got children that are out of our house.
Mhm.
It's a time for us to be able to follow that gift and to continue to work towards the dreams that God's put in our heart. And so I love just, speaking directly from the heart and sharing from personal experience those time balancing challenges and bringing life together and doing life with your kids. And I know that that's something that you're so passionate about,
Yes.
Christine. And we don't want to have that separation from them. It's important for us to have boundaries, but it's
Mhm.
in order to really get the fullness out of life, we want to do life with our families and come together on our goals and cast a vision so that we all can work on that together. So very excited to talk about all these things today.
Absolutely. That is a perfect intro and getting into what we were talking about. Last week, we talked about vision boarding. I talked about the word of the year. I talked about, our intentions for the year and how my family and I did a vision board, little party together, which was so awesome.
So
And
fun.
I just loved watching them continue. Like as we continue to go through the weeks, they would find magazines or things in the mail, and they're like, Mom, I'm going to add this to my vision board right now. And, I want to go canoeing, so we're going to add this to the board. And I was like, oh, this just makes me so happy. It just brought
Yeah.
us together to say, these are what we want. These are the things that we want in life, and just like you're saying, we're doing it together. They know that, we have our school time, we have mommy has her work time, and then we have our family time, and that is so important to them to say, you know what, it's family time. We're going to go play kickball together, or we're going to, it's movie night on Friday nights and we're going to have pizza and watch a movie, or we're going to play games on Saturday. So setting up those boundaries and those, areas that they know what's going to be expected. So I think that's a
Yeah.
lot what we're going to talk about today, setting up those expectations and those visions for our life. So what's your insight on some vision boarding?
So I absolutely love it. One of my very, very favorite things to do. And I just started incorporating doing it with my kids in the last couple of years as well. And I think that, to be able to talk to them about casting a vision and looking at their goals and dreams, and it's not that they necessarily know everything, because obviously they're young, but talking initially about it and expressing why it's so important to have goals and to have things that are different and similar. So things that potentially, is totally different than one of your siblings is okay to be
Mhm.
able to use your own giftings, to aspire to do sports or learn an instrument, and then just really like helping them to be reflective in the things that are most important. And so what I found is to write down maybe a short list of things that they can think of off the top of their head. So then it shortens the process. So we're not just like flipping through magazines all day. Not that you can't do that, because that's fun too. But if you're looking for doing this in a shorter period of time, you can make a short list ahead of time and identify those top 5 things that are important to your kids. And so again, this can be something health wise. It can have a spiritual component, praying more, reading the Bible, family time, doing a devotional. Health wise, it can be some type of sports activity, physical activity, reading a book. What kind of book do you want to read this year? And, having the literacy part of it incorporated. Also, maybe something that they're really really yearning for, something that they're hoping to achieve, to get, whether it's going on a trip or going to a specific destination. Maybe it's even just going to the beach, something that they love and that's enjoyable for the entire family. And then maybe a toy or something that they've been dreaming about, they can put on their vision board, and they can kind of work backwards from developing, whether you develop a system with them, it's a star tracking system or a behavior, walk through and during the week. If you look at, what they were able to accomplish throughout the week, achieving those mini goals, and then they're going to get this thing. So I know that I'm giving you a lot right now, but there's just a lot of different ways that you can go about doing this. But again, I think making that list ahead of time, those top 5 things, is incredibly helpful. And then it helps you to know what are we really, really looking for.
I love that. That is a great idea. And that's something that I didn't do, but I also use that magazine, time for them as kind of like an independent time. So I love the list though. If you, want to make it very intentional, that is a great, great point. And to have those categories, health, family time, what's that one thing that you really, really want, or what's something that you aspire to do. I absolutely love that. That's a great tip. So thank you for that. That's perfect.
Yeah. And so if you are, and that's with a fun family event. And so if you're looking for it for yourself, just how to create a vision board, I actually use similar categories, those daily activities, those quotes and scriptures that are near and dear to your heart. Like you talked about last week, finding that word that's really, really impactful for your year. What is that specific word that you want everything else around you to embrace? And I try to formulate goals based on what the number one intention is for that year. So as we're kind of building it out, that can be the center of your year, not the only thing, but the center. So as you're working out and developing your goals from there, it gives you essentially a baseline so that you're not just picking this, that, and the other. And then also, one really significant thing for me that's made a huge impact as I've evolved in creating vision boards is to do it for the year, not for 5 years, not for 10 years, not 20 years down the road, but this year. What do you want to accomplish? And you can always bring what you've been working on this year to the next board as well. So it's not something that if it didn't work out and you didn't accomplish it exactly the way that you wanted to, it's done. You can bring it on to next year's board and you're still accomplishing it. You're still working towards it. So it's important to know what you're capable of doing. And so what's attainable, what's realistic, what can we do in this specific time frame? And then it makes it less overwhelming for us because we look at these huge, massive goals and we say, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could ever do that. But the idea is to break it down in such minimal steps that it's totally manageable, totally doable to put into your schedule every single day as you're working towards it. So I'll give you an example. I want to be on the Hallmark show. I want to be able to be on the Hallmark channel. And I've been putting that on my board for the last 2 years. And I've been working behind the scenes to email the appropriate parties, getting on the phone with the right parties. And that's just one single step: writing an email, making a phone call, keeping in touch with them, sending them my information. And so in doing that, it's just those little steps that are getting me in touch with the right people that eventually will help me to get on the show. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of red tape, but I will get there at some point. So again, it's, breaking it down so that it makes sense for what you're doing every single day. So you can have that big goal on there. And you want to be able to achieve it this year. And even if you don't, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're not consistently working towards it. So, and then directly associating that picture, that image, whatever that is, directly with words, specific words, because our brain recognizes words with pictures. And when we put those together, we have a better understanding of the level of commitment that we have to that specific activity or that place or that thing. And so I always, every time I put a picture on there, I put a word or phrase next to that picture. And it
Yes.
helps me to have a frame, a sense of like a framework between myself and what is how am I relating to this specific image rather than just seeing a picture of me running. What does that mean to me? I'm
Right.
going to put 22.59, 22 minutes and 59-second 5K,
Yeah.
so like I'm going to be really specific and intentional about what that picture means to me. So I know what I'm working towards. And so that in itself is going to help us in our subconscious remember why we put that up there.
Yep.
So
I
again,
love
that
that.
visual perspective is really helpful.
It is. And that is really helpful in a way because when I go to vision board, I always find words first. Like all the phrases
Mhm.
stick out to me first. And I was like, why can't I find pictures to go with these things? But that makes a lot of sense to say like those images or those phrases were like, what did stick out to me most? Like, what do I really want? And then you can
Yes,
find the picture that matches that phrase.
I love
That's
that.
really helpful.
And another thing that's really, really helped me is I've actually printed off a lot of pictures directly from my computer, whatever pictures that I directly associate personally myself in action with those words. So I personally don't use magazines much anymore. I actually find the picture that I'm looking for online, I print it off, and it pertains exactly to what my vision is.
That makes
And
sense.
and it's fun to do the magazines, and we do find a lot of pictures in there that can be pertainable. But if you're someone that really, really wants to be intentional about what you're doing and you want to see yourself already there, already in that place, it's such a great way to be able to already imagine that it's been completed. And
Yeah.
so, for example, I want to do a TED Talk and I put myself speaking with the TED Talk sign right next to it. So I
Yeah.
can envision that happening with me directly, not with someone else. And so we might find someone else speaking in a magazine, but it's not directly correlating to our life. So again, that's been really helpful. And if you are using magazines, just remember that you can always cut out someone's face and put your face in there,
Yeah.
or you can apply it to something very specifically that you're doing. So if it is another runner, for example, that you're putting on there, um, again, putting that specific time or that length, that distance, whatever it is that you want to be intentional about, make sure you're clear at least about the wording.
Yeah. No, I love that. These are great. I have a little more work to do on my vision board then. But I do love that because every time I looked at a magazine, I would be like, this is great, but this really isn't getting exactly what I want.
Perfect for you. Yeah.
Exactly. So this makes a lot of sense. I'm not so crazy then, right?
Well,
But
and that's why I kept thinking to myself, I want to be able to create these kits for people so that they have at least all the baseline of a ton of valuable words, um, the boards themselves, and then a variety of different activities that maybe they just can't find
yeah,
in, your average magazine.
I love
So
it.
that was the thought that just kept coming to my head, because every time I host a vision board workshop, I provide everyone that's attending the workshop I provide them all the words. I provide them, not that they can't find anything in a magazine, because I do bring those, but I have a lot for them already to work with, so that
Hmm.
they're going to be a lot more of a head start in terms of time. And then also, inspirational, motivational, supportive words that they already have accessible at their fingertips that say, oh, well, this will work really well for me this year. So
Perfect.
pictures are a little bit more of a challenge still. I print off pictures of different types of activities and places and that kind of thing. But as far as like the personal aspect of it, they have to be able to be more creative,
Right.
in their own
Oh, I
way.
love that. And what I've used actually is scrapbooking stickers, the
Yes.
motivational or planner, stickers.
Mhm.
There's a ton of those out there now. So that really was helpful, finding some of those motivational words if you couldn't find them in a
Yeah.
magazine. So
Yeah,
that was
definitely.
great. Well, thank you so much. Now let's do real quick, quick 5 minutes, because I know we gotta get off here soon. But what are some great ways to really get back into our routine? Get back, setting up this plan, involving our kids, and just really having them a part of our life and our plan. Just like we were saying at the beginning of the show here.
So I would say with anything that you're putting into place, consistency is key. So you have to decide ahead of time, what are the things that are most important to me? So I always look at my day and I say, what are my priorities? I pick my top 3 priorities. And one of those is always quality time with my kids, quality time with my family. And then so I look at my day and I say, how am I going to do this? This is what I have to do business wise. This is what I have to do health wise. This is what I have to do for my household. Now, my kids are, they need to have quality one-on-one time with me. And so, how am I going to incorporate that amidst all of these other things? So, first and foremost, we need to decide, when is that? When are we going to be able to do that in our day? And I always like to talk about energy levels, because energy levels make a huge difference for the level of output that we can provide for not only ourselves, but for our fellow colleagues, for our kids. So it's important for us to know what time of day we are able to exert the most energy. And so we all have basically a innate, comfortable routine that we're not even necessarily planning out, but that we're either a morning person, we're a night person, or we thrive throughout the day during a specific time period. So finding that comfort level, finding that place that you're able to be most energetic is going to help you to plan out your day in a much more successful way.
Mhm.
So, some of us hate waking up in the morning. We hate doing the morning routine. Others are like, I got to get in bed by 8 o'clock at night, like,
Yeah.
so it depends on, or up till, I should say, 12 o'clock at night. But it's just, everybody is a little bit different. So I think in understanding that helps us to organize our day so that we can do certain types of activities that require more energy, and choose wisely when we're going to do them. And so I'm just telling you that as a baseline. When we're deciding what is most important, we have to ask ourselves, what activities when are going to be the most conducive for this period of time. So if we're blocking out our days, we want to decide, how much time are we dedicating to each of our children. So for me, every single day, I dedicate 10 solid minutes for each child. And for the average person, they might say, well, that's like nothing for each child. So that doesn't mean when we're all together. That
Hmm.
means individual time.
Right.
So individual time where I'm reading a book, where I'm going for a walk with them, where I'm just cuddling on the couch. It could be many different things, but that dedication is already in place. And so
Hmm.
deciding that ahead of time is really, really helpful in understanding what we're committed to. So that's, as that is part of the day, then I kind of build everything out around that. When am I eating lunch? When am I doing the work stuff? When am I going for a run, if that's incorporated? And then trying to keep that consistent for the most part throughout the entire week, because what consistency does is it helps us remain steadfast to our habits. So consistency equals habitual behavior. So the more consistent we are with the types of activities that we're doing, the more realistic it is that it's going to be a long-term thing for us. Now, if
Right.
we're just sporadic and we're just basically doing what we can when we can, our life is always going to be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to have some level of organization to how everything is going to play out. And we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And it's hard for us, especially with young children, to have everything go smoothly every single day. To say that it can and will is unrealistic. We do get distractions. We do get unexpected things that happen to
Right.
us. And that's okay, because that's just part of being a mom. But the intentional part is what's going to set you aside from just living a mediocre life. So
Yeah.
having an intentional morning routine, even if you're just doing 5 minutes of preparing for your day, is going to make a difference for everything else that you're going to do. 5 minutes for an evening routine, doing a brain dump, digressing,
Mm-hmm.
evaluating what happened, what was good, what maybe could be improved, and just really looking at your life as a whole and being grateful for all of the things that you have, counting those blessings and
Yeah.
remembering that there's always something to be grateful for. So this is a topic that I could talk about forever, and I could go on and on and on about it, because I love talking about habits and routines and time management. And as a busy mom, um, it's just, like I said before, it's so near and dear to my heart. And I
Mm-hmm.
love to help other moms to be able to find that quality time to be with their kids, because you don't get your time back. When your
Nope.
time is gone, it's gone forever. And
Yeah.
I know that that's a hard thing for a lot of us to hear. It's a hard thing for me to hear, but it's just so important to just remember that, and to say, sometimes I need to stop what I'm doing and I need to do this instead.
Yeah.
I need to stop in the middle of folding my laundry or doing some busy work, or even work in and of itself. I need to step back and reflect and say, is this enough for me in this amount of time that I'm spending with my kids, to be working this amount of time? Do they balance out enough so that I feel that my kids are getting what they need and I'm getting what I need? And
Right.
so we need to evaluate that as a mom, as a nurturer, and one that loves their children so very much, and say, I want the best for my children and I want the best for myself. So sometimes we need to make small adjustments where necessary. And sometimes we need to just say, I need a little break. And that's
Yeah.
okay too. We need to
Yeah.
separate ourselves from whatever it is that we're doing, and take some time for self-reflection and breathe and allow ourselves to have a restart. And that's
Yes.
completely okay too. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am just so honored to have you. And I am sure, I hope that you can come back and talk to us again soon, because you are full of wonderful information. And so many amazing moms took so much away today. I know for me, I am going to incorporate a 5 minute end of the day routine. I have my morning routine, but that end of the day, I think that would be huge. So thank you for that. But
yeah, and
where can,
Christine, it's so good too. I just will say this really quick, because it's like, even if you haven't had a great day, you still were able to live. There still was a reason for today.
Mhm.
And I always like to, whether it's in my journal, whether it's in my online journal, or it's in my phone, sometimes I can only type a couple of words, but I like to put something down so that I remember the significance of that day, because there was something that stood out that was special. And we can always find that in every
Yeah.
single day. Even if we've had a bad day, there's something that we can reflect on and say, that was good.
Yep.
That was important.
You're absolutely right. I mean, there are days where I'm just like so defeated. And then I look at my children or I hear them laugh and I'm just like, why am I so upset? Like it's not that bad, you know? So I hear you. But where can everyone find you? And I really hope to have you back soon. I know we have to wrap up.
Yes, no problem. So, if you're wanting to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at the Thriving Mompreneur. I'm also on Facebook. I have my Facebook business page, which is Genesis Hey Krick, Life Strategist. And then if you're wanting to visit me on the web, it's genesisspeaks.com. And of course, I have my YouTube channel, which is Crazy Mom TV. So you can visit me at any of those places, and feel free to reach out at any point. Any questions, please comment and let us know what what questions you have for us. We've got somebody in the palm tree right now.
I love that.
Perfect ending, right?
That's right. It's the perfect ending. Well, that is perfect. And we will add all of these things in the comments so you guys can reach out to her. And please let me know if you guys have any questions, any comments, drop them in the comments here and we will be sure to answer them. Thank you so much, Genesis, and to you beautiful children.
Christine. Thank you so much for the opportunity. This was so wonderful. I loved this conversation and I would love to come back. So.
I would love that. Hi, guys. All right, guys. I hope you have a great day. And remember, guys, I'm sending you all so much love, hugs, happiness, and health. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.